Let's talk about 1-point perspective. I'm going to draw a lot darker than you should because I want you to be able to see. My paper is going to be a little bit larger for the same reason. First thing we're going to do is get out a white piece of paper that is just a plain piece of paper, not the nice pieces of paper that you're going to use for your final project. Then we're going to add 1 point, because we're talking about 1-point perspective, right in the middle. This is going to be our vanishing point. After that, I'm going to draw a box in this top corner. You're going to use your ruler, and I'm going to make a 2-inch by 2-inch box. If your box is a little off, no worries. Go away. When I do 1-point perspective, I want to make sure that I go from the edge of my box to my vanishing point, drawing a line very lightly because I'm going to have to do a lot of erasing. Then I go to the middle box's line, and then I go up to the third box line. Now I have a box with a shadow coming off of it, but I need to make that shadow whole. So I'm going to put my ruler on my vertical line and slide down just a little bit. And I'm going to go just in that center piece, making that the outside of the box. Many times students find that their box looks funny because they drew this line through the bottom part. And so if that happens to you and it looks a little weird, check to make sure that your box, the line ends with the other line. Then I want to take my ruler here. I want to draw a line down, matching it up with the line that I just drew and going straight across. Then I take my eraser and I'm going to erase those extra lines. I want to erase them very thoroughly so that they look like they were never there. And now my box looks as though it's fading into space. I'm going to do another one, and it's going to be right on top of this one. This time I'm going to do a rectangle. And I'm going to go a little bit farther from the vanishing point, and I'm going to do 1/2 inch wide by 2 inches tall. Careful not to run off the top of my page. Yours doesn't have to be the same size, but it should be the same shape. Then I'm going to take the lines that I can see and draw very lightly, lining it up very carefully with the corner and with my vanishing point. In this case, because my shape is directly above my vanishing point, I'm going to notice that I can only see this part. If you're not sure, you can always set your ruler on top and draw the line, but since it doesn't come through, I can't see it. Then I want to put my ruler on this line, slide down, draw that line straight across, and it doesn't have to be the same length as my previous shape. You may be wondering how to make rounded shapes, and we're going to do that over here. Rounded shapes we'll draw obviously without our ruler. So I'm going to sketch a loose circle. And when I draw this circle, I want to imagine as though it had a box. You don't have to draw this shape, but I want you to be able to see it so that you can look for those lines. We want to imagine it, if it was a square, where would we be drawing our edges from? So we would think about this outside edge. Okay, we would go from here. Okay, and then we'd go from what would be an edge piece. And we would go from the top portion. Okay, I'm going to erase the box that I already drew so you can kind of see what I'm doing there. Now I want to get a good feel for the rounded edge. So I think it helps to sort of trace, and then I'm going to sort of sketch that edge and connect from those straight lines, erasing. those edges going to the vanishing point. And you can see that I went from a circle to a cylinder shape. If it would help to be able to see, you can always do a little bit of shading on a line like that. Now, what were to happen if this would be a donut shape with a hole in the middle, like the letter O? Then I would have a circle in the center. And you can see that that's there. I would do the exact same thing I've already done. I know that I had an angle out here, so I'm going to pretend that that angle is the same angle that I would use if it was a square, and I would draw it through kind of that shape. That's really it, because my shadow is so long and my hole is so short that I really wouldn't see those lines through, so I could continue to shade that this way. If it helps for you to see that line or that shape, you could always shade it as if it was rounded in that way. And it should look like it's receding in space. Any shape works, but different shapes handle the vanishing point a little differently. If I were to draw an E shape, let's say right here, okay, then I would have to go to each of these vanishing points every single time. I would have to go lining my ruler up, of course, every time. But if I were to draw the same E shape over here, I would be going from this line to the vanishing point, this line to the vanishing point, and that line to the vanishing point, making it much simpler of a design. So as you're debating how to draw your alphabet letters, that's something to think about. Let's draw one that's a crazy shape. I want you to follow along with this one. I want you to make a shape that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shape, 8 lines. Doesn't matter what that shape looks like. Doesn't matter if it's drawn with your ruler or not, because like the O, sometimes we just can't draw them with a ruler. Now I want to make sure that every sharp edge, even the interior angles, goes to the vanishing point. I want to get that back angle. This one goes through my shape so I don't see it. This one doesn't go through my shape until it hits a little bit more in the center. I'm actually not going to draw all the way there. So I have my edges drawn. Then I want to line up my ruler just like I did before. I'm going to skate that shape so that that is my line. I'm keeping sure that that's the same angle. And then I want to do this shape down here. Again, making sure that I do that same angle and I match it in the center. Because my shadow is so long, I don't draw one here or here, but I do erase those remaining lines. So that's how that shape works. When I start to create any of these shapes, many people struggle with drawing the alphabet letters of their name. Your assignment is going to be 6 letters of your name. A quick hint to drawing perfect bubble letters every time is going to be to use your eraser. So S's usually trip up some of my past students. I'm going to tell you to turn your pencil around to make an S with just the pink eraser portion, and then to outline the pink eraser portion, and then just wipe away, and then you should get a pretty good S. Now, how does an S work? You want to think about it again as if it was a calculator key or a square shape. Okay, so if I have this square shape, I would go from this angle and this angle and this angle and this angle, this angle and that angle. So again, I'm gonna go using my ruler, always. I'm gonna do this back one first. Okay, then I'm gonna do one that's up toward the top portion. I'm gonna do the edge of the S, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. Because I have one here, I wanna have one down here. So I'm gonna draw that line going this way. Because I have one on the bottom, I'm gonna draw it here, but I'm not gonna go through the top portion of my S. And then I'm gonna draw one here. Actually gonna draw another one on this angle right here because I have a thickness to this S that I wanna make sure I mimic. So how do I draw the angles? I like to start with the easiest ones first, and those are the first curves. Again, this one has a wide shadow, this one has a wide shadow. I could give this one a very thin shadow, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. I want to skate along the edge here, making sure that I dip down when my shape dips down. So then just so I don't get confused, I'm gonna erase those lines that I've already used. Because sometimes with perspective, we can get confused with all the lines going. And you're gonna see that I drew really lightly, and then I'm gonna refine those lines a bit as I go through. So that's one part of the shadow. Because this shadow is so thin, I have this shadow here that is the same thickness. And I'm gonna skate that one through there. A good rule of thumb with perspective is to always remember, if you can see the shadow on the top edge, you cannot see the bottom on the you cannot see the bottom of the shadow. So if I see the top edge, I see the top edge. I'm gonna go right about here on this one. I'm gonna curl up and finish that line, something along that line. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of an eyeball to get some of those curved shapes correct. And then I'm going to erase this line. So that way my shadow is going to be, and again, sometimes I like to color them in just so you can see what that shape looks like. Another letter that doesn't always seem easy for students is going to be letters like a W or an M. So I'm going to show you that one. I'm going to actually do a W right down here. My vanishing point is here, and so it's going to be sort of an underneath edge. I'm going to make my W a squarish line rather than being more like a circle like that one. I'm going to try to keep my letters even. And if you feel comfortable drawing this with a ruler, absolutely do that. If you feel comfortable freehanding, you can do that as well. So because this shape is square, I know immediately, and I'm going to start on the left. My desk space is tight here. I'm going to go across and across, and here I'm gonna draw just this little line there. That's from this center line. I'm gonna make this edge go and this edge go. I can't really see this line, so I'm gonna do this one and this one. Now, I always want to check to make sure I have all my lines. So I want to go down here and see, and if you can tell, there's just a little bit of a sneaky part there. So I want to make sure that's there as well. Then I line up my horizontal lines. So again, I'm going to go with a skinny shadow. I have this line here. And then because I know that distance, but my W drops a little bit further down, I'm actually going to drop into right about here to get the shadow on that one. And then I didn't do a great job making this even, But I'm going to pretend I did and make that shadow look like that. So those shadows are complete. Erase those lines that are going off into the edge. So now I need to do the shadow of this line. And in this case, I just take my ruler up, I match it with the edge, and I continue that same angle. I do the same thing here. I have this angle, I go down, and it's here. Because this is long enough, I can kind of take this edge and I would draw it like maybe way back here. But it's hard to see that, so it would have been okay to leave it as well. M is going to be the exact same situation coming from that direction. Your alphabet letters for your name, there must be 6. And they must be in 1-point perspective, all coming from the same. The shadows should be evenly spaced. You can do all 6 of your letters on the top. You can do all 6 of your letters on the bottom. You could do 3 letters on the top. You can do 3 letters on the bottom. If your name is Michelle, do your whole name. If your name is Ted, then you're going to have to find some more letters to add or use your last name. But you should have at least 6 letters. You could do your middle initial, your first initial, and your last name if you have a short set. You're going to color the letters with either warm or cool colors and the shadows with the opposite. So if I wanted to do my colors with my letters with cool colors, I would do like maybe green and blue and purple, but my shadows would be red and orange and yellow, or vice versa. Either answer is okay. You have a black pen inside your box that you can use to outline these letters to get a nice crisp outline, but do that when you're all done. Please make sure that all of your vanishing point lines are erased completely as you finish. As always, if you need help, go ahead and email me, or we can Google Meet, or you can ask your teacher for help to contact me as well. Good luck!